Pregnant nurse writes they poison your drink on Mafia boss's napkin. He pulls her into his car. In the midst of this storm, a small hospital sat quietly at the edge of the city, its windows glowing like watchful eyes. Inside, Isolde, a young nurse with hair the color of midnight, hurried through the corridors, her footsteps echoing softly. Her heart pounded not only from the long hours of work, but from the secret she carried, a secret that could cost her life. She was pregnant, and not just with anyone's child. The father was unknown to the world, a life growing quietly in her womb, yet tied in ways she did not fully understand to the most dangerous man in the city. Lucian Duskborn, the Mafia lord whose name was whispered with awe and fear alike. Lucian was a man of power, sharp and cold, known to have secrets that the city itself feared to touch. Some said he dealt not only in money and influence but in forces older than the city, forces that had no mercy for the weak. Isolde did not know what to believe, but she had seen the evidence. She had seen men bow to his command as if their wills were not their own. She had seen the city bend to his shadow, and she had learned something tonight, something that could not wait. In the dim light of the hospital cafeteria, she saw a figure she had never met but knew instantly by reputation. Lucian Duskborn sat at a corner table, calm as if the storm outside were his private audience. His eyes were dark like pools of night, and they seemed to see through every lie, every thought, every hidden fear. He was drinking something from a glass, and something in her gut screamed that it was poisoned. Isolde's hands trembled. She knew the danger she faced. If she spoke too loudly, if she acted too boldly, she could die. And yet she could not stand by and do nothing. She moved quickly, her mind racing, and took a pen from her pocket. On a small, crumpled napkin, she wrote in careful letters, "They poisoned your drink." Her hand shook as she folded the note. The letters looked almost like a whisper on the thin paper. She had no plan, no certainty, only hope that Lucian would see it and believe her. The storm outside grew louder, hammering against the windows like the heartbeat of some wild beast. Isolde crept forward and with every step felt the weight of fear pressing against her chest. She had never been so aware of her own fragility, nor so certain of the power of one small action. She slid the napkin across the table to where Lucian's hand rested, a hand that seemed to radiate authority. He did not move at first. His dark eyes met hers, and a slow, almost imperceptible smile curved his lips, the kind of smile that could be both a warning and an invitation. "You," he said quietly, his voice low and deliberate, carrying the weight of control. Isolde swallowed hard, nodding once. She did not speak. Words could betray her. Actions had to speak. Lucian's fingers lifted the napkin, and he read the words carefully. Then, without a word, he stood, his coat brushing the floor. The storm seemed to press against the windows, as if waiting for what would happen next. And then, in one swift movement, he pulled her into his car waiting outside. The doors shut, and the world outside became a blur of rain and city lights. The engine roared to life, carrying them away from safety, from reason, from everything familiar. Isolde's heart raced, but so did something else, a strange thrill that she could not name. "Do you understand what you've done?" Lucian asked, his voice calm but carrying an edge sharp enough to cut steel. I just wanted to warn you," she said, her words trembling. "I didn't know what else to do." He was silent for a moment, studying her, and she felt as if he could see the truth of her soul. Her fears, her doubts, the growing life inside her, they were all transparent to him. And yet he did not recoil. He did not strike. He merely watched as though measuring the weight of her courage. "You are brave," he said finally, almost softly, "and reckless. Very well, you will come with me." The car moved through the night, cutting through rain-slicked streets. Isolde's mind raced. Who had poisoned him? Why, and what was this strange pull she felt toward a man who could destroy cities with a thought? Lucian glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "Do you understand what it means to touch my world?" he asked. To step inside the darkness that follows me. Isolde nodded, though she knew she did not fully understand. She only knew she could not turn back now. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the rhythmic wipers against the windshield. Then, as they neared the outskirts of the city, Lucian spoke again. There are those who would kill me for power, for revenge, for reasons older than you or I can imagine. Tonight you became part of that story, and there is no undoing it. Isolde's stomach tightened. She pressed her hand to it, feeling the faint stir of life within. A reminder that even in this storm of danger she carried hope. And yet she wondered if hope could survive here, in a world ruled by shadows and fear. The car finally stopped before a towering manor, its walls dark and strong, like a fortress built to defy time itself. Lucian stepped out first, and Isolde followed, her footsteps light against the wet cobblestones. Inside, the mansion was both beautiful and unsettling. Candles flickered in golden sconces along the walls, casting dancing shadows. The air smelled faintly of smoke and old wood. Portraits of stern ancestors lined the hallways, their eyes seeming to follow every movement. Lucian led her to a sitting room, where plush chairs sat near a large fireplace. The flames cast warm light that did little to ease the chill in Isolde's heart. He gestured to a chair and she sat, hands folded neatly in her lap. "Tell me everything," he said. She did. She told him what she had seen, what she had feared, and what she had done. As she spoke, she saw his eyes soften in some moments, sharpen in others, and settle into a gaze that seemed to pierce her very being. When she finished, there was silence. The only sound was the crackle of the fire. Then Lucian spoke, his voice low and controlled. "You are part of this now, and whether you like it or not, you will learn to navigate the shadows." Isolde's heart thudded in her chest. She did not fully understand what that meant, but she knew it was true. And deep down, she felt something else. A pull toward him, dangerous and magnetic, a connection neither of them could yet name. Suddenly, a sound outside the window made her freeze. Lucian's eyes narrowed, alert. The shadows outside seemed to flicker unnaturally, and for the first time, Isolde felt a chill that had nothing to do with the fire. "Someone is watching," Lucian said, standing. He moved toward the window, his posture commanding and tense. "Stay here." Isolde's pulse quickened. She wanted to protest, to go with him, but she knew better. The danger was larger than both of them, and for now she had to trust him. Minutes passed. Then he returned, expression unreadable. He sat across from her, the firelight reflecting in his dark eyes. "You will rest here tonight," he said. "Tomorrow we will begin to untangle this web, and perhaps by then you will understand the depth of the storm you have entered." Isolde nodded, though fear and curiosity warred within her. She pressed her hand to her stomach, feeling the life she carried, fragile yet defiant. She did not know what the morning would bring or what shadowed forces lay ahead. But she knew one thing: her life, and the life growing inside her, were now bound to Lucian Duskborn in ways she could not yet imagine. As she lay down on the chaise, the storm outside raged, and lightning illuminated the mansion in stark, fleeting brilliance. She closed her eyes, and in the darkness behind her eyelids she saw a figure standing at the edge of the forest, a shadow from Lucian's past, watching, waiting, and perhaps plotting. The night stretched on, filled with tension and unanswered questions. And somewhere in the storm, the city itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next move in a story that had only just begun. The next morning, the mansion was quiet. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving the city glistening with rain. Puddles reflected the muted sunlight, like fragments of a shattered world. Inside, Isolde woke to a silence that felt heavier than any storm, her heart still racing from the night before. The fire in the sitting room had burned low, leaving only faint warmth and shadows dancing across the walls. Lucian was already awake. He stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the city. His silhouette seemed almost like a sculpture of authority and danger. Isolde's eyes followed him, feeling the strange mix of fear and fascination she could not yet name. "You rested?" he asked without turning. His voice was low, but there was something almost soft in it, as if he had not spoken to another soul for years. I tried," she said, her voice small. He finally looked at her, and the intensity of his gaze made her shift in her seat. She wanted to look away but could not. His eyes seemed to pull at her, like the tide pulling at sand, inexorable and deep. "You saved me last night," he said. "That napkin, that message, it was dangerous, very dangerous, do you understand?" "I did what I thought was right," she replied. She felt a surge of courage, strengthened by the life she carried. "I couldn't just let them harm you." Lucian's expression softened for a brief moment, then hardened again. "Bravery without understanding is a dangerous thing, and yet you have done what few would dare." He moved closer, and Isolde felt the air shift, thick with tension she could almost taste. He was both a storm and the calm after it, a paradox that made her heart ache and flutter at once. "Tell me everything you know," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Every detail, every face, every word, leave nothing out." Isolde took a deep breath and began. She described the moment she had seen the glass, the shadowed movements of men who lingered too long near Lucian's party the night before, and the whispers she had overheard, plans that smelled of betrayal and ambition. Lucian listened silently, his dark eyes never leaving her face. He did not interrupt, did not question, but the weight of his presence pressed down on her. When she finished, there was only silence. "You have entered a dangerous world," he said finally. "A world where shadows move faster than the light, where loyalty is fragile and power can be taken with a whisper." Isolde felt a chill. "I don't understand it all, I only know that I couldn't stay silent." Lucian's gaze softened, almost imperceptibly. "Perhaps that is your strength," he said, "and yet strength without control can be fatal." The silence stretched, broken only by the crackling of the fireplace. Then Lucian stood and walked to the grand window, looking out at the city. The sunlight glinted off the wet rooftops, but his eyes seemed to pierce beyond the physical world, into secrets hidden deep within the streets and shadows. "There are forces in this city that you do not know," he said. "Older than any king, older than any law. I have kept them at bay for years, but tonight someone tried to challenge me, someone from the past you cannot see yet." Isolde's stomach tightened. "The people who try to hurt you, they will come back." "They always do," he replied, turning to face her. His expression was unreadable, but there was a weight in his eyes that spoke of old pain and long-buried sorrow. "And when they come, I need to know I can trust you, not just with your words but with your courage, your choices, and your heart." Her heart skipped at his words, though she did not know whether it was fear or something deeper. She pressed her hand lightly against her stomach, feeling the life inside her, a quiet, steady reminder of hope and responsibility. "Do you trust me?" Lucian asked suddenly, stepping closer. I want to," she said honestly, "but I don't know enough." His lips curved in a small, almost imperceptible smile. "Good, trust is dangerous when given too quickly, but so is fear when it rules you." The day passed slowly, with Lucian showing her the mansion, its many rooms filled with treasures, secrets, and echoes of the past. Portraits of stern ancestors lined the halls, their eyes seeming to follow every step. She wondered what stories lay behind those faces, what choices had shaped the man she now found herself drawn to. At lunch, Lucian's butler served them in silence. Isolde ate slowly, still trying to steady her nerves. She noticed the way Lucian's eyes lingered on her occasionally, not with hunger or cruelty but with curiosity, like he was reading her thoughts without words. "I have enemies," he said abruptly, breaking the quiet. "Some visible, some hidden, and now you are part of that world. There is no turning back." "I know," Isolde whispered, "but I don't want to hide, not from you, not from them." He studied her for a long moment. "You are brave," he said again, almost as if testing her, "and yet bravery is not enough. You must learn patience, caution, and the strength to face truths you may not like." The afternoon sun waned, and shadows grew long in the mansion's grand halls. Lucian led her to a balcony overlooking the city. The view was breathtaking, but there was something eerie in the way the rooftops stretched like black waves into the distance. "Look," he said, pointing to a building far away. "See that tower? Many would call it abandoned. Few know it is a place where choices are tested and where mistakes can become curses." Isolde followed his gaze, feeling a shiver run through her. "A curse?" she asked. "Some call it that," he said. "Some call it justice, others call it fate. The line is thin and the cost is high." A sudden noise behind them made her jump. Lucian's hand shot out, steadying her by the elbow. "It's nothing," he said, but his eyes scanned the horizon with practiced vigilance. "For now." Even as the words left his mouth, Isolde felt the weight of danger pressing closer. She realized that the city itself seemed alive, filled with eyes and whispers she could not see. And somewhere, lurking in the shadows, was the figure from the night before, the one who had followed her from the hospital, the one who now watched them from afar. As the evening fell, Lucian took her to the mansion library, a room filled with ancient books and scrolls. He pulled a chair for her near the fireplace and gestured for her to sit. "I want to teach you something," he said. "Not just how to survive in this world, but how to see it, how to understand its rules, its dangers, and its truths. You may think you are small, but even the smallest choice can ripple through the shadows and change everything." Isolde listened, captivated despite herself. She realized that beneath his cold, dangerous exterior, there was a depth of knowledge and experience that she could not ignore. He was a man shaped by loss, by power, by secrets too heavy for ordinary people to carry. And yet he was offering her a place by his side, not as a pawn, but as someone capable of understanding him. Hours passed as he spoke, and the night deepened around the mansion. Isolde felt a strange exhaustion, but also a strange clarity. She could not go back to the life she had before. She was part of this world now, tied to Lucian in ways that frightened and thrilled her at once. Finally, he stood and moved to the window again. "Tomorrow we will begin to prepare," he said, "for those who will come, for the forces that seek to challenge us, and perhaps for the choices you will have to make." Isolde nodded, her mind racing. She pressed her hand to her stomach once more, feeling the gentle stir of life within. It reminded her that even in darkness there was hope. Even in fear there was courage. And then, as if on cue, a shadow passed across the window. Isolde's breath caught in her throat. Lucian's eyes followed it, dark and sharp. "They are coming," he said quietly. "And not all shadows are visible. Some are closer than you think." The candlelight flickered, and the library seemed suddenly colder. Isolde shivered, caught between fear and fascination. She realized that danger was not only outside the mansion walls. It was already here, in their midst, in ways she could not yet see. As she prepared to leave for the night, Lucian's voice stopped her. "Do not think you are safe, even for a moment," he said. "And do not forget, the world we walk is not forgiving, but it can be beautiful in its own way if you learn its patterns." Isolde looked at him, a mix of awe and uncertainty in her eyes. "I will try," she said. He nodded almost approvingly before turning back to the window. She left the library, her mind filled with questions, her heart filled with tension, and her spirit touched by a strange, unexplainable pull toward the man she had warned, and who now seemed inexplicably tied to her fate. That night, as she lay in a guest room of the mansion, the wind whispered through the cracks of the old walls. She could feel the city breathing beyond the mansion gates, alive with secrets, with eyes she could not see, with dangers she could not yet name. And somewhere in the darkness the shadow waited, watching, waiting. The night was thick with fog curling through the mansion like silver smoke. Isolde sat on the edge of the bed, her fingers tracing the fabric of the blanket, trying to steady her racing thoughts. The soft knock she had heard hours ago had not returned, but the unease lingered, a whisper in the back of her mind. She could feel it, Not the wind, not the storm, but something darker, older, and waiting. Her hand rested on her stomach, where the small life within her moved quietly. It was a fragile comfort, yet it also tied her tightly to the danger surrounding them. Every heartbeat reminded her that she was no longer just herself. She was carrying something worth protecting, something worth fighting for. Suddenly, a shadow flickered across the wall. Isolde's breath caught. She knew it was too large to be a trick of the candlelight. From the corner of her eye she saw it again, a dark shape moving silently across the hallway. Before she could think, a voice spoke behind her, low and commanding. Do not fear it, yet do not underestimate it. She turned to see Lucian standing there, his coat brushing the floor. Even in the dim candlelight, he seemed like a figure carved from night itself. His eyes, dark as storm clouds, held concern, though his expression remained controlled. They are not shadows like you imagine, he said, moving closer. They are remnants of old magic bound to this city long before anyone walked its streets, and tonight they stir. Remnants of magic, Isolde repeated, voice barely a whisper. I don't understand. Lucian's gaze softened, but only slightly. You will. There are forces that move invisibly, shaping events, testing strength, loyalty, and heart. Some of them know of your presence. Some know of the child you carry. Isolde's stomach tightened. The child. Her life inside her felt suddenly fragile against this invisible danger. She swallowed hard. What can I do? He approached and placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. For now, you watch, you learn, and you trust. There will come a moment when you must act. A moment when courage alone will not be enough. Only understanding, only knowledge can protect you both. The air between them was charged, thick with tension and unspoken questions. Isolde felt drawn to him, even as fear curled like a serpent in her chest. There was a strange comfort in his presence, yet the danger he radiated made her pulse faster. Morning came slowly, gray and heavy, pressing against the mansion walls like a physical weight. Lucian led her to the inner chambers of the mansion, rooms she had never seen before. Shelves lined with ancient books, shelves carved from dark wood that seemed older than the city itself, stretched to the ceiling. Scrolls with symbols she did not recognize, glowing faintly in the dim light littered tables. This is where the past lingers, Lucian said, his hand brushing over the spines of books as if acknowledging silent companions, and where the future can be shaped if one knows how to read the signs. Isolde's eyes widened. What are these symbols? Protection spells, binding rituals, warnings, he said. Some are old, some older than memory. They are tied to my family, to this city, to you in ways you cannot yet know. Her mind spun. To me? Yes, he said quietly. You carry life that is tied to these forces. And that makes you a part of the story, whether you want it or not. Isolde's fingers trembled as she touched a scroll. The symbols seemed to pulse faintly beneath her fingertips, like they recognized her. A shiver ran through her. I don't understand, she whispered. Lucian knelt beside her, lowering his voice. There is a curse, he said. An old one tied to betrayal and blood. It sleeps now, but it can awaken. And tonight it will stir. You must be ready. Fear tightened her chest, but beneath it, a strange sense of determination grew. She would not allow herself, or the child she carried, to be mere victims. She would face this curse, whatever it was. Even as she steeled herself, the mansion trembled faintly. A soft wind blew through the inner chambers, though no window was open. The candles flickered. Shadows deepened, stretching and twisting like living things. Lucian stood and walked to the center of the room. He raised a hand, and the air seemed to pulse with quiet energy. The curse will test more than strength. It tests heart, trust, and the choices we make. Tonight we see if we are ready. Isolde felt the weight of his words. She looked down at her stomach, feeling the life inside her respond with a gentle stir, almost as if it knew what was coming. A fierce protective instinct rose in her. She would face this darkness, not as a victim, but as someone who could fight for both of them. Hours passed. The mansion seemed to hold its breath. Outside, the fog thickened, curling around the trees and walls like ghostly fingers. Lucian prepared for the night, lighting candles and murmuring words she could not understand. Symbols appeared on the floor in glowing patterns, delicate and complex. "You will stand with me," he said, turning to her. "Not behind me, not apart, with me. If the curse seeks to test us, it will find more than one soul to challenge." Her heart pounded. I'm ready," she whispered. Lucian's eyes softened briefly and a small smile touched his lips. "Good. Courage without fear is useless. Courage tempered by fear, though, that can move mountains." As night fell, the mansion became a place of strange lights and shadows. The glow from the symbols on the floor reflected in their eyes, and Isolde felt a pulse of energy move through her. It was like the air itself was alive, watching, waiting, judging. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the room. It was darker than the dim glow around them, and it twisted unnaturally. The temperature dropped, and Isolde shivered. "It has begun," Lucian said, his voice calm but tense. "Do not let fear rule you. Do not run. Stand with me." Isolde gripped his hand, feeling the warmth of him, the steady strength he radiated. She felt the life inside her respond again, a small heartbeat of courage. The shadow moved closer, forming shapes that were almost human, but twisted, elongated, and filled with malice. The candles flickered wildly, and the mansion seemed to groan as if alive. Lucian stepped forward, murmuring words she could not understand. The shadows hesitated, then twisted again, swirling toward them like smoke caught in a storm. "Focus," he said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Do not let it see your fear, only your resolve." Isolde took a deep breath and closed her eyes. She felt the warmth of her child, the pulse of life within, and she let it guide her courage. She opened her eyes and met the shadows, not with hatred, not with panic, but with steady calm. To her surprise, the shadows wavered. They seemed to sense her resolve. Lucian's voice rose, a low chant that resonated through the room, and the shadows twisted back, reluctant and unwilling. "It is testing us," Lucian said, finally turning to her. "It wants to see what we fear most." Isolde realized then what she feared most. Not the shadows, not the curse, but losing the people she cared for, losing the life she carried, losing herself in a world that demanded obedience and fear. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if sensing her realization. Lucian's hand found hers again, and together they stood, hearts beating in unison. The room's energy shifted subtly, the shadows hesitant and the air lighter. "They are not gone," Lucian warned. "But tonight we have survived the first test. There will be more, always more. And each test will demand more of us." Isolde pressed her hand to her stomach, feeling the tiny life inside her respond. A wave of hope mingled with fear, and she realized she was stronger than she had known. Not alone, not apart, but together they could face the darkness. Hours later, when the shadows had receded and the mansion quieted, Isolde found herself alone for a moment in the library. She touched the glowing symbols on the floor, tracing the intricate patterns with her fingers. The energy hummed beneath her skin, almost like a heartbeat. A small voice in her mind whispered, "You are not just part of this world, you can shape it." She looked up and saw Lucian standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable, yet something softer lingered in his eyes. "You have done well," he said. "Bravery is not enough, but you have shown understanding. That is rare." Isolde smiled faintly. "I am learning." He stepped closer, and for a moment the world seemed to shrink to just the two of them, the firelight flickering across their faces. "Tomorrow the true test begins," he said quietly, "and this time it will not be small." Isolde pressed her hand to her stomach again, feeling the gentle stir of life inside her. "Then we will face it together," she said. Lucian's eyes met hers, dark and stormy, yet a hint of something softer passed between them. "Together," he agreed. The mansion, once quiet, now seemed alive. The shadows had not disappeared, they lingered at the edges, watching, waiting. The curse was not finished. And the city beyond the walls seemed to hold its breath, as if it knew that something momentous was unfolding within. In the night, Isolde felt a strange mixture of fear, hope, and determination. She was part of this story now, bound to Lucian and to the forces moving unseen. And she knew, deep in her heart, that whatever the curse demanded, she would not falter. The dawn came slowly over the city, casting pale gold light across rooftops still wet from the storm. Inside Lucian Duskborn's mansion, the air was thick with anticipation. The shadows of the previous nights lingered in every corner, as if watching, waiting. Isolde stood at the edge of the grand hall, her fingers tracing the railing, feeling the pulse of the mansion beneath her fingertips. The curse they had faced in the inner chambers had tested her courage, her heart, and the life she carried. Yet, despite the fear and uncertainty, she had learned something essential. She was stronger than she had ever imagined. And now, the final challenge awaited. Lucian appeared at the top of the stairs, his dark coat flowing behind him. His expression was calm, almost unreadable, but the sharpness in his eyes betrayed the storm within. "They will come today," he said softly. "The forces that seek to destroy us to take what is ours. And we will face them." Isolde nodded, though her heart raced. "I am ready," she whispered. She did not know if her words were meant to convince him or herself. He descended the stairs, each step measured and commanding. When he reached the floor, he took her hand gently in his. "Together," he said, echoing the promise they had made in the library the night before. "No matter what comes, we do this together." Outside, the city stirred. Shadows moved in ways that were almost imperceptible, dark figures blending into the fog, watching, waiting. The curse was not just a memory now. It had taken form, tangible and dangerous, ready to challenge the strength of those who dared to defy it. Lucian led her through the mansion corridors, down stairways few had ever seen, to a hidden chamber beneath the house. The room was circular, its walls covered with symbols that glowed faintly in the dim morning light. Candles lined the floor, their flames flickering with a strange rhythm, casting shadows that danced like living creatures. "This is where it begins," Lucian said, his voice low and steady. "The curse will test everything, our courage, our choices, our hearts, and only one truth can guide us: trust in each other." Isolde pressed her hand to her stomach, feeling the gentle stir of life within. It was a small heartbeat of hope in the darkness, a reminder that even in shadows there could be light. As the hours passed, the chamber filled with a strange energy. The symbols on the walls pulsed, and a low hum resonated through the floor, vibrating beneath their feet. The shadows gathered at the edges, twisting into shapes both familiar and terrifying. Figures appeared, phantoms of old enemies, whispers of betrayal, echoes of choices long forgotten. Lucian stepped forward, drawing a line of protective symbols across the floor with his hand. "Stand with me," he said. "We are stronger together. The curse cannot break what is united." Isolde nodded and stepped closer. She had never felt such intensity in her life. The room seemed alive, the shadows aware of her every movement, testing her resolve. She drew a deep breath and let courage fill her chest. The shadows surged, forming a wall of darkness between them and the exit. Their forms were ever shifting, black as night, yet somehow more threatening because they seemed alive, aware. "You face what you fear most," Lucian said. "Not the shadows, but the consequences of doubt, hesitation, and distrust. Remember who you are, remember what you carry." Isolde's eyes met his. In that gaze she found clarity. Fear was natural, but it would not rule her. She placed a hand over her heart and then over her stomach, drawing strength from the life inside her. She felt it, the bond between them, fragile yet unbreakable, a tether of trust and courage. Slowly, she raised her hand, joining his as he continued the ritual. The symbols on the floor flared brighter, pulsing with light that cut through the shadows. The darkness recoiled, twisting and writhing, but unable to cross the barrier they created together. The shadows screamed in silence, a soundless fury that filled the chamber, echoing against the walls. Lucian and Isolde held steady, their joined hands glowing with energy, and with each heartbeat, each step, each breath, the darkness weakened. Then one figure emerged from the shadows, taller and darker than the rest, a specter that seemed to carry centuries of malice. It glided forward, its presence chilling the air around them. Lucian's eyes narrowed, but he did not falter. "This is the final test," he said. "Face it not with fear, but with truth." Isolde felt her breath catch. The figure loomed, its eyes empty yet filled with accusation, as if it sought to reveal every hidden doubt and weakness in her soul. She realized in that instant that the curse was not just an external force. It was a mirror of their inner fears, their regrets, and the choices they had avoided. She pressed her hand to her stomach, feeling the heartbeat of life within. She drew courage from it, from the promise of the future she was carrying. She stepped forward, meeting the shadow with steady eyes. "I will not fear you," she said, voice strong. "I will not allow doubt to control me. I face you because I must protect what I love and what is yet to come." The shadow hesitated, as if recognizing her resolve. Lucian's hand tightened around hers. "Good," he said. "Now together." Their joined strength radiated outward, flowing into the symbols, the room, and the darkness itself. The figure trembled, twisting violently before dissipating into smoke, leaving only faint traces of its presence. One by one, the remaining shadows shrank and retreated, dissolving into the corners of the room. Finally, silence fell. The chamber seemed still, as if the mansion itself had exhaled. The candles flickered, casting soft light across their faces. Lucian released her hand and stepped closer, his expression softening in a way he rarely allowed. "You were incredible," he said quietly. "I have faced many dangers in my life, but today you faced one with a strength that even I did not expect." Isolde felt a warmth spread through her chest. "We did it together," she whispered. "Yes," he said. His hand reached to her cheek, a gesture of tenderness that spoke volumes. "Together." The mansion, once shadowed and oppressive, now felt lighter. The curse had not disappeared entirely. It would always linger, a reminder of the forces that watched and tested, but it had been held at bay. They had faced it and survived, their bond stronger for it. Days passed in quiet recovery. The city outside remained tense, but within the mansion, a new rhythm settled. Lucian and Isolde spent hours together, learning, planning, and understanding the balance between power, caution, and trust. The connection between them deepened, built not on fear or desire alone, but on mutual respect, courage, and the shared knowledge of what they had endured. Lucian, who had long been isolated by his own power, began to see a future that included more than control and solitude. Isolde, once uncertain and fearful, embraced her strength, her insight, and her capacity to influence the world around her. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of gold and red, casting long shadows across the mansion, Lucian and Isolde stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The wind carried the scent of rain and earth, the memory of storms past and storms yet to come. "You have changed everything," Lucian said quietly. "Not just the curse, not just this city, but me. I see the world differently because of you." Isolde pressed her hand to her stomach. "And I see the world differently because of you," she said. "Because you showed me that strength is not just survival, it is love, trust, and the courage to face what is impossible." He took her hand, holding it against his chest. "Together," he said again, a word that had become their promise, their shield, and their bond. As night fell, the mansion was calm. The shadows were gone, and the air was filled with a quiet energy, a promise of hope. They stood together, hearts aligned, knowing that the challenges they had faced were not the end, but that whatever came next, they would face it united. Isolde felt the life within her stir, a small but powerful heartbeat that echoed the rhythm of her own courage. She knew that the future was uncertain, filled with unknown dangers and unseen forces, but she also knew that she was no longer alone. Lucian's eyes met hers, dark and deep, yet softened by trust and admiration. "We have survived the storm," he said, "and now we may begin to live." In that moment, the city beyond the mansion seemed to exhale, the streets quiet, the fog lifting. The curse that had haunted them had been challenged, and though it would linger as a reminder of the world's hidden dangers, it no longer controlled them. The bond between Lucian and Isolde had been forged in shadow and fire, tempered by courage and strengthened by love. Together they had faced fear, darkness, and the unknown, and together they would face whatever future awaited them. And as the stars appeared above the city, twinkling in the clear night sky, a sense of calm settled over the mansion. The storm had passed, the shadows had been challenged, and a new chapter was beginning, one filled with hope, resilience, and the promise of life, love, and redemption.